It looked like somebody was bent over and had their head in the window of the deer blind. It either heard me or smelt me, and he pulled his head out of the tent and stood straight up, and that shocked me. They don't make people that big.
The way it moved, almost as if it was gliding across the beach. I've never seen anything move like that in my life. They were screaming at each other in gibberish. It sounded like a language, and they were chuntering away back and forwards, back and forwards, back and forwards. I know what a bear looks like, and there is no way on this planet that what I saw were bears.
What are you reporting?
Jesus Christ, you better...
Sir?
Gia!
Hello?
Get somebody out here.
What's going on now, sir?
That son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Uh-oh.
Hi, this is Drew Pliska, and you're listening to Sasquatch Chronicles.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Thanks for being here tonight. Got a great show planned for you. We're going to be chatting with JD. And JD grew up on this piece of property out there in the Uwharrie National Forest, very close to his home. And his whole family's lived on this property. His grandparents, his parents, and he grew up on the property. And you know, there's a lot of weird things that happened on this property. JD's going to share his own encounters, and I asked him if he'd be willing to share, you know, some of the experiences his family has had on the property. And one of the encounters is very strange. His grandmother asked JD, "Have you ever seen the lights?" And JD said, "No, I've never seen them. However, my grandmother sat me down one time and was talking about the lights, and she called them the screaming lights." And I'll kind of let JD go into it. We're also going to be talking with Tim. And back in the mid-'70s, he was out there in Ohio. He was a small boy, and he had an encounter. And I posted a portion of it up on the blog, but I thought I'd play the full interview tonight. If you've had an encounter and you'd like to be on the show, shoot me an email. My email address is wes@sasquatchchronicles.com, and I'll see if I can't play some more vocals for you at the end of the show. Thank you again for being here. Let's jump into it. I want to welcome JD to the show. JD, thanks for coming on.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here. And I know all of your encounters really took place in North Carolina around this on the property and around this property. If you would you start from the very beginning, kind of tell us what you were doing and walk us into what happened?
So it's probably been 20 years old now. I was probably around 14, I would say, and my aunt has a section of property about 10 minutes from my house, and I live in the actual triad part of North Carolina, so I'm not the coast, but I'm not the mountains. I'm right in the middle. If anybody's familiar with North Carolina, and the North Carolina Bigfoot is Uwharrie National Forest, and it's scattered all out through here. Well, her property is only probably within 30-minute drive from part of Uwharrie. I was down there, I was fishing, and you know, the place has always gave me the kind of the creeps, but just kind of pushed it off. I was down there, no wind. It was probably 6:30, 7 o'clock in the evening. I started hearing like whistling, and the place is surrounded by pine thicket. You can't see into it, and virtually if you're in it, you can see out, but if you're on the outside, you can't look in. It's just that thick. I felt like something was watching me, but whatever. Just played it off. Might be a raccoon or something just behind me or into the woods. So I just, kept going about my business. And I kept hearing something, and I said, okay, that doesn't sound like anything I've heard. And it was kind of like, I'm not going to say it was like a whistle squeal. And I thought it was my cousins messing with me. And I was like, okay, yeah, y'all can stop. And it didn't stop. So, okay, whatever. And I got creeped out. So I started getting my stuff up to go back to her house. And it was about a 5 to 6 minute walk up through a pasture. I was just like, I'm getting ready. There's no wind. There's nothing going on. And I just snap and boom, just happens in like seconds. So I get my stuff and I just leave. I roll out. That wasn't the last thing that happened there, but went back and found the pine tree that was, virtually pushed over. It was still green. It wasn't dead or anything. It was still green. It was kind of like almost deep-rooted some of it was starting to come out of the ground.
Yeah, I'm curious about the whistles. I rarely talk about the whistles, and I really should more. I know on the last show, if you listen to the very end, I play a portion of Ron Moorhead and those guys up at the Sierra camp, and you can hear the same whistle. Did it whistle? Was it like a sharp whistle?
I would say it was more of a sharp, but at the other end, I thought it was my cousins. At the time, my cousin that was there or lived around there, he was 17 or 18. He was a big boy, and that's why I kind of thought it was him. It was kind of sharp, but like sometimes it would kind of like it sounded like man, but when it done it like the last time, it didn't sound like a man. It was kind of more of a high pitch, I would say.
Yeah, I hear you. I guess my question wasn't great, but like when a long time ago, I used to work in a lumber yard, and they would do that real sharp whistle, to let everyone know it was break time or it was lunchtime or whatever, because there was machinery going on. You couldn't hear anything, but you could definitely hear a whistle. Is the tree that you found, was that on your way out, or was that when you went back?
So that was all. I went back because I actually hunt down there too. I think it was I would say a month later. And I was down there all the time. Growing up, I've been there. I would go down there used to 3-4 times a week when it was warm, and then deer season, I would be down there 4 or 5 times a week. 4 or 5 times a week down there to either hunt or put out corn, check cameras. That same year, like let's say we'd found the tree, but that same year we had like zero deer activity. Like everything disappeared that year. I mean, everything. You didn't see raccoons, you didn't see foxes, deer, nothing. You didn't see any of that year. It was weird. You just didn't see anything. And then that next year, everything was fine again.
Yeah, it's creepy when the forest goes dead on you as far as sound. That next year, is that when the next encounter happened?
It was this past deer season, so like maybe 3 months ago, I had another thing happen. But this next one, I'll go ahead and go to the one I actually seen something was near the URE National Forest, and it's from where I'm at, you can take Highway 109 to it. I was leaving, I was fishing, I was coming home, and I've took this road and I drove it hundreds of times. I told my girlfriend I felt like something was watching me when I left there that night. So I stopped at the end of the road and I was testing my sound system in my truck. And so I rolled all my windows down, turned the music up, and I stepped out. And I walked about probably 25, 30 feet from my truck and was looking at it, listening. And then, okay, something was creeping me out. So I got back in the truck and started up the road. Well, then about 50 yards is a big cornfield. And around here, corn doesn't get about 5.5, 6 foot tall at max. And, it was 2:00 in the morning on a Saturday. There was nobody really around. It's in the country. And as I'm going by, I look over in the cornfield because I always look for deer. Out of my corner lights in my truck, I just see eyeballs over the corn. And as I remember, I was like, okay, there's eyes. So I look back, and as I go by, the eyes are actually following me. And so I was like, okay. in the night. I'll look back and